tonight. Thank you for joining me here. My name is Daisy, for those who don't know me. I understand that some of you are connected by phone and might not be able to see my slides. I will do my best to make this presentation enjoyable, considering that you can't see what I'm talking about. Today, we'll be talking about a very deep subject, suicide. Over the next 30 minutes, approximately, I will be talking about suicide under the Spiritism view, and I hope to be able to bring some clarity, information, comfort, and help for incarnated and discarnated that will be listening us tonight. The number of people committing suicide today in the world, it's alarming. Scientists say that each human being on Earth, that means each one of us, know someone who commits suicide, or knew to know someone who had committed suicide, or know someone who have considered it at least once. The World Health Organization estimates that each year approximately 1 million people die from suicide, which represents a global mortality rate of 16 people per 100,000. Or even to make more clear for everybody, that means that this is these are data from last year, that every 40 seconds a person committed suicide in 2019. In the beginning of this year, they predicted that for 2020, before what we're living right now, about this global problem, this global pandemic, before that, they say that 2020, they were waiting for something about every 20 seconds, a person will commit suicide. There is more specific data. Men die through suicide 3 times more than women. The rate of suicide is highest in middle age. And last year, the firearms accounted more than 50% of all suicide rates. So I want to bring this information for us in the very beginning of the lecture, because tonight we're gonna go through lots of subjects. For some, it's not new what I'm gonna say, but for some is. So keep in mind who is around you, what are you feeling, what are your thoughts, and pay attention to the statistics, and let's see what it can help. Let's see what we can do.
Daisy?
Yes.
Everyone to put on mute.
Yes, that was my request.
I requested at the beginning, but I think people are getting inside. I put everybody on mute. I don't know.
Então, todos dois pediram aqui para terminar isso aqui. É isso, é?
Just, okay, mute all. I believe everybody is in mute now. Okay. Let's move on. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, first of all, I want to bring to your attention the classification of suicide according to the Spiritist doctrine. The suicide can be classified. You can find all this information on the Spiritist book, and in the Spiritist doctrine, we have lots of books. We have lots of information that are very useful and can confirm everything. So the suicide can be classified into 2 types. The intentional, that is a result from a conscious act. The suicidal person plans his or her death, sometimes with details. So it's the direct suicide. It's go there and take your life. And we also have the indirect suicide. For some, they're not too knowledgeable about the Spiritist doctrine. It's a new definition. And I could say for lots and lots of people, they just realize when they get there. So we also have this classification of suicide, that it's a result from vicious habits and behaviors that harm the physical or mental health, or both. What that means. What differ, I'm going to the difference between one to another to let clear for everybody. What differs one from another is that in a direct suicide, the person do it at once, as I said to you, while in an indirect suicide, the person spent years killing himself slowly. For example, abusing of alcohol, drugs, food, an unruly sex life, cultivating hate, holding grudges, or any lower feeling or behavior that will short human life. What means? It's not abuse of your body, it's abuse of your mind. It's keeping inside of you bad things, bad feelings. It's holding things that shouldn't be there. But what is the cause that brings a person to end his or her life? There is not just one. What the scientific organization tells to us, it can be severe materialism, loneliness, depression, abuse of all kinds, extreme poverty, mental disorders, drug addictions. There are lots and lots of, I don't like to say causes, but motives that people use to take their own lives. The best psychologists in the world agree that a suicide most often occur when stressors and health issues converge to create an experience of hopelessness and despair. This is very usual. We see all day, we see all the time, we see people depressed, we see people without hope. So every time that we see from now on, something that needs to click in our minds, we need to be more aware to others and to ourselves, of course. According to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, depression is the most common condition associated with suicide. And it's often undiagnosed or untreated. Conditions like depression, anxiety, I said already, so drug abuse, substance abuse, especially when unaddressed, increase the risk of suicide. All of these motives, as I said in the beginning, are supported by the idea of stop the suffering, correct? All the individuals are in extreme pain, sometimes physical, sometimes psychological, but pain is the common feeling that we want to run off, right? And now I have a question for you guys. But my friends, what if that it's not the end? What if the suffering we are trying to escape from doesn't end with the physical death or just become worse after it? Think about that. Taking a desperate measure to stop pain and getting instead many reincarnations of more suffering and pain. If you are trying to run from a problem and just for seconds, just for a moment, you lose the control of yourself and make your situation worse. It's worth it? Think about that. Every single psychograph book, letter, or messages that brings a testimony of a spirit who committed suicide have the same statement, which is that the suffering after suicide is bigger than before. And as soon as the spirit understands the new reality, they have the same question. Can you guys think which question is that? What have I done? So, okay, as I was saying, every single psychographic book that it was wrote by the spirits, it brings the same message It brings all the suffering, all the things that every suicide person goes through in their spiritual life. And it's very common to see in these books this the spirits asking themselves the same question: what have I done? And for us, understanding what really happens might help people with similar thoughts to remove them from their heads. Because as soon as you get it, as soon as you understand what's happening, what is gonna happen, what is gonna happen, what is gonna happen, you're gonna get it that the suicide is a false solution. It's not an exit. It's not the way that we're gonna solve anything. Let's move on. The Spirit's book, of course, as we can find in the Spirit's doctrine, answers for almost everything, almost every big human problem that we are facing in our lives, or we had faced in the past. So I really recommend, every time that you are scared, that you don't know what to do, go to one of those books, go to the Codification, the Gospel, the Spirit's book. They're gonna talk about the things that you are passing through, the things that you are feeling. And I am 100% sure that there you're gonna find enlightenment. You're gonna find answers and comfort. I'm pretty sure of that. And speaking of suicide, the Spirit's book, in the part 4, you're gonna find the whole section about suicide. I just brought a few questions for us today to enforce some points that I wanna talk about, but I really recommend, if you wanna go deep, if you wanna know more, please go to the Spirit's book. In the question 943, Kardec asked to the spirits, what is the cause of the awareness of life, which sometimes take possession of people without any assignable reason? Illness, lack of conviction, and sometimes safety. What they mean with safety? Stay in your comfort zone. Sometimes you stay so much that you really forget why you are here and get too accommodated. And those things are danger for us too. Moving on, Kardec asked to the spirits, has a man the right to dispose of their life? No. This is the answer of the spirits. That rights belong to God alone. He who voluntarily commits suicide contravenes the providential ordering which sent him into the earthly life. And further away, Kardec asked to the spirits, does he commit suicide who falls a victim to the excessive indulgence of passions which he knows will hasten him to death? Now we are talking about the indirect suicide that I talked in the beginning. And the answer of the spirits is, he commits moral suicide. Do you not see that a man in such a case is trebly guilty? For he is guilty of a want of firmness, of the sin of bestiality, and forgetfulness of God. So, in a way or in another way, we are guilty when you go through those paths, when you go to direct suicide or indirect one, because we have the choice. We always have the choice, and not just the choice. We have good spirits around us. We have God always looking after us. We have Jesus, our master. We have the gospel telling us which is the right path. So we are never alone. Even sometimes we can feel like this, right? So moving on. Of course, for every action, there is a reaction, right? And Kardec asked exactly the right question. The question that is gonna explain is like exactly what we are feeling inside of our hearts. In the question 957, Kardec asked to the spirits, what are in general the effects of suicide on the state of the spirit by whom it has been committed. Now, we stopped talking about the physical consequences, and we're going to talk about the spiritual one. The consequences vary. This is the answer of the spirit to circumstances. But the one penalty that no suicide escape, it's disappointment. Some suicides, it's true, face their torment for their fault at once. Others do so in the new earthly life, harder to bear than the one they cut off. So the consequence of suicide for each case is unique. There are always mitigations and aggravating factors related to the act itself, but there is always disappointment. Kardec is talking about, in the bottom of this question, there is a long comment of Kardec. He talked about things that I want to bring here because I want you guys to understand. I'm going to go inside of two very famous books that deal with this matter. One is the Memoirs of a Suicidal. Another one it wasn't psychographed, was written for a lady. And I want you guys to understand what is the big deal. Why so much suffering? Why am I paying for something? No, it's not a payment. It's not. God, it's not make you suffer. You are make yourself suffer. It's just the result of a law, a natural law. And for every action, there is a reaction. So I want you guys to understand this well today. There is, I quote just a little part that I want to read for you guys. That is a comment from Kardec. When death occurs abruptly, the consequences are the prolongation of spiritual disturbance, following a small period of illusion in which the spirit, during more or less time, he thinks he's still alive, and stay attached to the body for a long time. What Kardec is talking about, it's the prolongation of the bond from body and spirit. We all have a fluidic cord that makes a connection with spirit and body, right? If you are seeing the image, you can see it's a very thin cord, a fluidical one. You cannot see it, of course. And after physical death, the duration of this connection will depend on how attached the spirit was to the matter. In a natural death, his connections gradually fades away. As soon as this connection is complete, there is no more fluidic cord. This happens with the help of the spirits. So what I want to say is, if the death occurs in the natural way, what I mean is, if your mission is accomplished, if we stay incarnated the years that you were programmed by you and the other spirits to stay here, this connection with the body, it will fade away very smoothly with the help of the spirits that will be there for you. If this is not the case, if you are committing suicide, an indirect one or a direct one, the story is very different, and it gets complicated because it's brutal, the act, and the cord, it's not broken, it's not cut in the way that should be, and this make marks on your perispirit. This affect your spirit and your disturbance, the way that you're gonna think after you discarnate. Let's go on. I've brought some passages. As I said to you guys, I based this lecture today in two amazing books, and one of them, it's Memoirs of a Suicide. I really, really recommend to you guys to read. Before, I recommend you to go to the codification, read a little bit about it, because it's a very intense book, but it is an amazing book. It is an amazing book. Camilo, who is the character, I put his photo over there. Actually, Camilo Cândido Botelho, it's like a pseudonym for him, because his real name was Camilo Castelo Branco. Camilo was a writer in Portugal in 1300. And he brought, so the book is very rich in details and things that we need to know. And I brought some passages that I want to talk to you guys about it. One of them, it's an acute violent, this is this is Camilo describing how he felt after the act, right? After commit suicide. An acute violent maddening pain instantly came over my entire body, particularly in the area of my brain and auditory system. I've lifted my hands to my right ear. Blood was coming from the hole caused by the bullet I had used to commit suicide, staining my hands, clothes, and body. So Camilo was saying that after death, so he was feeling everything. And the reason that he was feeling everything, it was because the connection that was still too strong to the body. It was because the link that I told you guys, the cord that was still too attached to the body. And he could feel everything. He feels way more things that I'm not talking about today for you guys. But for him, it was a passage on the book, and he says, I commit suicide, but it didn't work because I'm still alive. I'm feeling everything. So he didn't understand. The thing that Camilo wasn't talking about, it's that the life doesn't end, right? The life continues, right? I found myself blind. And to further add to my state of disorientation, I was wounded, only wounded, not dead. Life continuing me, just like before my suicide. As I said to you guys, Camilo, the reason that Camilo committed suicide was because he was going blind. He was a writer, and that was, he thought that could bear this kind of expiation or privation. And what he found after was way worse. But as everything in life is always in all moments of our life, the divine mercy is there, right? Suicide is a great crime against what that a human being can do, but God never let us alone. God is there for us. He's always there. All the suffering, all the pain, consequences of a second of madness, a second when we stop thinking, we just let the pain take over, a second of weakness that can compromise many existence. But as Elírio says, in the pages of this book, Camilo describes that the places when he was being off, the feelings that he was off, they were terrible. They were very scary when we start reading. But my friends, as I said before, it was a passage in this book that Camilo thought that that his situation got very, very, very bad. He thought that, come on, what can happen more? Because I am a wound like this, I am in pain all the time, I am in this horrible place. And now there is an army that is being rude and taking it all over. But I want to make a comparison of this situation that Camilo was facing on the Valley of the Suicide with our lives, right? Sometimes the situations that we consider unbearable, painful, and hopeless is our rescue. It is exactly what we need in that moment. Using the example of Camilo, and Elírio, it's amazing when he does this analysis in his book that I'm going to show in the end of the presentation. Camilo was being held by this army that I am talking about. Yet at the time, he didn't know that those soldiers were the legion of the servants of Mary, and that Camilo was suffering, and that Camilo was being taken to the Valley of the Suicide. He thought that that would be the end, nothing else, that was the worst thing, and it shouldn't be happening to him. But what he didn't know is that the domains of the valley, they are under the grace of Mary of Nazareth and her workers. All of the suicides, they were protected there. And then I ask you guys, how many times this happened in your life? How many situations that are so difficult, so painful, so challenging that make our doubt or our faith, that made our think that we are alone? I hope that from now on, we try to remember Camilo's example from the moment when it's spiritual suffering and fear but very close to being rescued. What do you need to tell to ourselves and to them and to the persons that we know that are passing through these difficulties now? Patient. And we all need to keep in mind, it's that we're never forsaken. We are never alone. There is always someone close to us that need us, that care about us, that are there ready to be for us when you need. And what is our role now? Knowing all of this that I just tell you guys, it's that to help the people that you can't, and to let people help us during difficult times, to know and let the ones around us know that suicide shouldn't be considered a way to go, nor an exit or a problem solution, as I said in the beginning of the presentation, because it's not. If you go today in this world, it's our world, in the material world, where we have lots of tools, we have lots of places that we can go for to ask help. We have the American Foundation of Suicide for those who are here with us in the United States, because every country has that too. We have the World Health Organization. All of those places and way more, they're not talking about now, provide information that can help us. They provide help for those, for us, or for someone else that you know that are going through difficult times. We need to pay attention in change of behavior, in change of talking, in change of mood. We need to be aware what is going on inside of us and inside the people that we love that are close to us, to be able to help, because now we know that things can get worse if they don't receive the help that they need. As we are heading toward the end of this lecture, I brought to us one amazing tool that we can appeal to help ourselves and others. Camilo tells us an action that is so powerful, that is capable to penetrate for the lower zones of the suicidal, of the suffering spirits, to the highest worlds, the poor ones, until the pure spirits, the ones that we are trying to become of. And someone can try to guess. Of course, it's a prayer. And there is a passage from Camilo that he said that when he was there, when the servants of Mary rescued him, they took him to the hospital, and there was this device. When it lights up, the screen lights up every time that a charitable and benevolent spirit pray for them. Discarnated spirits that were there, and also incarnated ones from Earth. There are groups of people who pray for them, and they could feel the words, they could feel the vibration, they could feel the good in that prayer. There is so many passages talking about the power of the prayer. Divaldo has actually in the Spirits magazine of July of 1864, I think, 1862. There is a case, a very nice one, impossible love. The couple was obligated to marry another people, and they chose suicide, right? With the illusion of becoming free to live their love in the afterlife. And in the what the article says is that is in the mediunic reunion, the mentor of the house told to the medium that the consequences is that the couple was in the dark, apart, of course. And during the suffering, the only thing besides the screaming and all bad things that they were receiving in that place, that unfortunately was their mind who was creating, it was that, besides that, the only thing that they could listen were prayers for that spiritual center, for the people that were praying for them, that were directing the prayer for those two. And sometimes they said they were so confused that they couldn't listen the whole prayer, but they could feel the vibration. They could listen one or two words of comfort, and that helped them a lot. Divaldo has a very good story, a very quick one, and I'm gonna tell to you guys. For 15 years, he's prayed for this spirit. It was a suicidal spirit, a boy who threw himself under a train. And he saw in the news, he didn't know that the boy, and he was like, he felt bad, right? And then he started to praying for him. 15 years later, Divaldo was in the very difficult day for him. And he was feeling not good. He was feeling very, very sad. And then this one spirit shows up, present himself to him and ask him to not be like this, to be happy. And then he told the story that he was the guy who threw himself under the train, and that Divaldo was praying for him, and that the prayers of Divaldo helped him in the moments of greater sorrow. And he's just there in that day because of those prayers, because he couldn't listen anyone else, but he could listen the prayers of Divaldo. And that makes Divaldo's day, of course. Divaldo was way more happy after listening that, after knowing that what good he, saying that the good that he did with them with a prayer. Okay, so next slide. And we are in the end of our lecture. I am very grateful to have all of you guys today. And I'm gonna end this lecture with a prayer. Now we know that is another ways that we can find help, but we need to keep in mind that we should use both. We have to, every time that we're passing through something too difficult, too hard to bear ourselves alone, every time that we need someone, we need to go after medical help, and you need to go after our spiritual help. Because every time that you have these kind of thoughts, thinking in suicide, thinking things like can take us to suicide, that means that our spirit is sick. And we need to be treated in both worlds, in the material one and also in the spiritual one. In the chapter 28 of the Gospel According to Spiritism, there is a collective of prayers, very beautiful one. And there is one that I chose for the suicidal. If you have someone, if you know someone who had committed suicide, you can think in this person right now doing this prayer. If you don't, please, I ask you that put your thoughts, put your love to all of them, to all of these spirits that in the moment of weakness committed this act, but that one more time, they're not alone. They have the good spirits, and now they will have us praying for them. So let's start. Please elevate your thoughts. Please concentrate yourself. We know, Lord, the destiny that awaits those who violate your law by voluntarily abbreviating their days. But we also know that your mercy is infinite. So please condescend to extend this mercy to the soul of all the suicidal spirits. May our prayers and your commiseration lessen the harshness of the sufferings they are experiencing for not having had the courage to wait the end of their trials. Good spirits, whose mission it is to help those who are wrecked, take the spirit and those spirits, all of them, under your protection. Inspire them to regret the error committed. May your assistant give to them strength, so to support with greater resignation the new trials through which he will have to pass in order to make reparation. Turn aside from him the evil spirits who are capable of once again impelling him toward that same act and so prolonging his suffering by making him lose the fruits of future expiations. We also direct ourselves to you, whose unhappiness is the motive for our prayers. Too often I wish that our commiserations may diminish the bitterness and help to create within you the hope for a better future. This future lies in your hand. Believe in the goodness of God, whose bosom opens to accept all repentance and only remain close to hardness heart. Lord, thank you for being with us. Please help every incarnated spirit that are listening this lecture, every discarnated one that needed to listen this lecture today, this message. Please present in their hearts the will to get better, make stronger their faith, make them believe that life is worthy. Please stay with us today and always. So be it. And this is it for today, my friends. This is the bibliography that I use, Suicide a Fast Solution that I told you guys, a memoir of a suicide, a gospel according to Spiritism, the Spirit's book. And I went to the website of the World Health Organization for the data that I brought to you guys in the beginning of the presentation, also the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the Spirits magazine. I'm very happy to have you guys today. And I'm sorry for the technical issues in the middle of the presentation, but I hope that you guys have a great and amazing night tonight. Thank you very much.